Welcome to the Innovation Conversation, a podcast about innovators, both in business and real life. Hosted by myself, Ricardo Pascual, and Harry McDonough.
This podcast is sponsored by openexperts.com. Open Experts is a place to go if you're looking to talk with top experts from around the world. That is open-experts.com. This podcast is also sponsored by startupnetworks.co.uk. Startup Networks, it's an online forum where you can find all the resources you need to run your startup. From grants to investors to tips and tricks on how to be successful in your startup.
This podcast is also sponsored by Odev.tech. Odev.tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure to check them out at Odev.tech. Today we are joined by the team from Odev.tech, one of our sponsors, Esteban, Keenan, and Rufus. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
It's a pleasure having you here on the podcast. I would love to start the podcast, this episode of the podcast, by hearing a bit more about how Odev.tech got started. So I don't know which one of you would like to go ahead and tell the story. I'm sure our audience would love to hear it.
Well, maybe I can kick off, and then Keenan, you can tell us more about the history. He has been there for a long time, working with us. So Odev started maybe 10 years ago. You know, we find out that people were struggling to find good development firms. So we jump in and we try to solve that issue, you know. And many of our clients are startups or companies looking for trustworthy teams, senior development services. So here we are, and Keenan and Rufus are big partners on Odev, and has been with us for a long time. So I don't know, maybe Keenan, you can tell more as an old client and now a partner, something more, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So my side, I think it actually goes back to 2008 for me, which a long time ago. But so I had a startup, a brilliant startup, by the way. It was destined for greatness, but unfortunately it didn't work. Yeah, so that was 2008. I mean, the world was against us at that time. You forget how depressing it was. But needless to say, we ran out of money, and so I ended up working in a bank, which I really had to kind of sacrifice my morals, but sometimes you got to do those things. Had to make some money somehow. This was it's quite an interesting project. For a bank, it was quite innovative. We were building Twitter inside a bank, and part of the reason they were doing that was to try and cut down on spend on Bloomberg chat. So this was sort of 2008 again. Even the banks were trying to cut costs, and so it was quite innovative. Although if anyone remembers IE8, you might remember how difficult it is to build anything at all for on IE8. I mean, absolutely horrendous. So, but that aside, we ended up getting, I think, somebody from Upwork, and kind of random.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to build MVPs sort of outside the bank just because it was faster, and then sort of show the product off internally. But it's always a bit random, or it feels random sometimes, just going onto Upwork and finding whoever. And long story short, it turns out the person that I kind of started contracting with, when things got difficult, he ended up subcontracting.
I'm not sure if you're still there because we stopped hearing you.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Shamanics. The problem with the Shamanics.
Completely froze halfway.
I know. Where did I stop rambling on?
Back. Yeah, you were talking about you built Twitter for a bank.
Yeah. Oh no, stop there. Okay. Did I talk about IE8? I did, didn't I? Yes.
Yeah, and you were saying about I got the it was hard to build on IE8, and that was it.
Okay. So basically saying that, so hired someone from Upwork, and which is always a little bit random. And it turned out the guy I hired from Upwork was subcontracting the difficult work to Esteban. So obviously they didn't last long. Once found that out, went straight to Esteban, and then the other guy unfortunately got fired, and Esteban and I started off building this product inside HSBC. And So for me, that was the starting point of our sort of working relationship. And then we've been through a number of startups, sort of my own startups, and you've had some of your own as well, and then some of my other friends' startups, and sort of the patchwork of kind of startups, particularly in the UK, kind of sort of London, your friends and that sort of thing. It's once you, for us, it was more about just having some confidence in the resources that we were using. And obviously for a startup, you're always cost conscious. And so remote working works well. I mean, I'm sure like many, right, we've been all remote working and offshore for that 10, 15 years. I mean, it's been standard for a long, long time. So, and the cost benefits of that obviously are enormous. So that's my starting point. Yeah, long time.
And then Rufus, when did you join?
I joined a year ago, and I come from essentially the amoral banking side that Keenan spoke of a few minutes ago. And
what a miserable place.
I was managing money for hedge funds and stuff. So the real dark side of no, I'm joking. I had a great. I loved that job, but I loved crypto even more, and I got the opportunity to lead a crypto startup listed on the TSXV, and jumped at it with both hands. And I ended up leading a UK-based service-driven crypto broker set up by some UK traditional finance entrepreneurs in wealth management stuff. And none of us had any experience of building software. All good at the business side and revenue generation and that kind of stuff, and risk. But no one had built any software. We were really, I think if someone could write a macro on Excel, that was about as far as we could go. So we went through 2 CTOs quite quickly to get what we needed for this for the brokerage. We needed an app, a cell phone app. We needed a back end to help store all the data, and we also needed to integrate somehow into TradFi to get an audit done because we were a publicly limited company. So there were lots of pressures. And after 2 CTOs, we came across Keenan and Esteban, and they got the job done on time with all that public company pressure behind us. So I didn't have to crack the whip too much. They just responded, got on, solved problems, found solutions. And did it at reasonable cost. And what I discovered is that when you go through a business career, I mean, I'm actually in my 3rd decade of business. I know that's hard to believe, but when you come across people who are keepers, you want to hold on to them. People who actually deliver. And nowadays, tons of people have startup ideas or software ideas, but tons of those people haven't got a clue how to write any code. And when you come across the right people who can help you realize your dream, then it's extremely valuable. And so when I left crypto brokerage and Esteban asked me if I'd like to join them, it was a no-brainer, really. So that's how I came to it.
I think we undercharged Esteban.
Did you charge Esteban or no?
No, we undercharged. I mean, listen to that. My sort of ego is going up here. We should have just charged him more, shouldn't we?
I think easy 20%. As you can see, Ricardo, now we have the good guys, the bad guys all together. We are very good now with Keenan, with Rufus. We are working now on many fintech projects. And we are becoming really good at that, So, I mean, it's great to have such team, and it's great for other startups and companies be able to have the team we have, So,
thinking about something, because you've all mentioned that you've had many previous projects before, and that actually gave you a lot of experience, which when you're building something for a startup, you bring that to the table, right? You're just not just developing something based on someone's request. You're actually giving your input on what should be built and the way it should be built, right? So what do what's your advice for someone starting a business right now? Because you have tons of business under your belt in different regions of the world. So what are like the top 3 tips that you always say, do this first or do that?
We have many ideas. Many of them. But
Yeah,
I don't know. Take care of your budget. Take care of your budget.
Mhm.
That should be one of the first. I don't know. Keenan, Rufus.
I think it starts before then.
MVP,
I think
iterate, test. Yeah.
No, even before then, for me, like, so one, even as a developer, I think Figma is the best product that's ever existed. I think it's amazing. I think one of my experiences, particularly of say early stage investing, is that hardly anyone actually uses your product. Not in it. I mean, if you're lucky, you're lucky if they do. If you get big numbers and you've got sort of you're viral a bit or you get some traction, you know, I mean that's awesome. But if you're most people don't. Is the default, really. So you can end up putting huge amounts of work into stuff that doesn't get used, particularly at that early stage. And I'm guilty of that more than anyone, I think. But the point I was going to make is I think between doing stuff in Figma, because design is cheaper than development, because you can change it so fast, and you can have so many variations, and most of the time you're just trying to convey the idea. So you try to pitch to people, trying to refine the idea, trying to get across what it looks like. So I think that stage should actually last much, much longer. So once you get into development, you're going down a path which you're committed, or it's just harder, or despite all the tools, it's still harder to be fast, or as fast as the design kind of Figma stage. And the other thing that I always think is that book. I'll forget the name of it now. What is it? Someone will have to prompt me. Think Fast, Think Slow. What's that book called? I've got it here. So hang on.
Daniel Kahneman, isn't it? That one? Think Fast, Act Slow.
Thinking Fast and Slow. Yeah,
that's
Thinking Fast and Slow. That's the book I had in my mind. Like actually, I find, and this is what a lot of accelerators basically do. The whole purpose of an accelerator almost is to basically make you think, like all the big thoughts you have in there, like a distillation kind of process, to be able to do all the thinking required to get down to real sort of precision about what your business or startup kind of does. So I think because that's free, and because doing work in Figma and the design and all that kind of stuff it's not free, but it's cheaper. Like the more you can do in that side, the better. So that's the first thing. And then the second or third thing as well, I always think of, I think like if you've got like a barbell, you've got like sell the dream versus build the dream. And it's like the more you can sell the dream, the better sales skills you have, right? Then the less you have to develop. And I mean, I always struggle with this. Like, I build far too much. Basically, everyone builds far too much. All these startups build far, far too much in a way. And I certainly think that the more you can sell, the better your selling skills, the less cash you have to spend, and the less you have to build early on to get your business going.
What point do you put? Sorry to interrupt, Kim. Where would you put product market fit into all that then? Finding that essentially first. You've done that before you get to the Figma stage, hopefully. Do you think?
No, no, not at all. I don't think that will even be close then. I mean, maybe in an ideal world you get lucky, but most don't, right? So I think you have to sort of get to the point to you convey that idea to people, and at some point, and it takes ages. It takes so much longer than people realize, I think, to get to the idea bit where you say it to somebody, they're like, okay, I get it. That's a really good idea. Like most people never get there. Most people take paragraphs, right? So, tell me about your idea. Well, like it's everyone talks about elevator pitch and so on, but like trying to get the business down to like 2 or 3 words or something to convey it all, like it's super, super hard for most people. So I think you still have to go through that stage. You still have to develop. You still have to do MVPs. You still have to get it to market, and you still have to find product market fit. I'm not saying that those, you don't have to get there. It's simply that the more thinking you can do earlier on, the cheaper the whole process will be. And when you come to developers as well, the more efficient you can be, the more it will help your developers, and the more likely you are to get what you actually want as well. So it's
Actually, there is an example in my mind. With Rufus, we went 1 month ago over startup marketing platform. Actually, they actually build too much for the traction they have. I mean, they only have few users. They didn't have the right pitch, but they have built this huge platform and spend a lot of money, and they are getting maybe 10, 20 users per month, It doesn't make sense, And when they try to pitch, they actually don't know how to give you just a single phrase of what this platform does. So, I mean, it's Rufus, I'm sure you remember. So it's an example, actually.
I think this is what I think happens is everyone who has the startup, who has the business, thinks they're pitching it the right way and thinks they're being like super precise. Like you think you've got it, but everybody else thinks you probably don't. So
exactly,
because when you run the business, you put so much effort into it, and you slog away, you work so hard, and it's super clear to you. It's so clear what you're trying to do, but it's never as clear to anybody else whose heads are full of all sorts of other things.
But to be able to explain a complicated subject in simple matters it's an art form, and not everyone can do that, right? That's a whole different.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're saying.
Yeah, communication is one of the biggest skills. Communication and selling. I mean, if you get that right, I mean, I'm assuming that anyone hoping to do a startup has tried to pitch their friends and family first and managed to sell them, because I think that maybe half the time they're not interested. And I know, I've had my ex-wife. If I talk about finance, she used to get very disinterested quite quickly. Financial startups, but anyway, no, I'm joking. I think if you can't pitch your friends and family on your idea, then you've got to go somewhere else with the idea. But I'm assuming we've all done that.
Friends and family are nice to you, though, mostly.
Yes.
Maybe not ex-wives, but generally friends and family are nice to you. But
if your ex-wife tell you it's a good idea, should be a great idea. So,
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a really good idea.
That's it.
And if you have 5 ex-wives, well, you have a small team to prove your ideas.
I would hope that my best friend told me, no, Rufus, that is not going to make it out the door. Forget it. But yeah, I guess. I suppose the key is to run it by your friends and family before you become too involved in it, before too much work has gone in. But anyway,
what do you say would be the main challenges of building an MVP from your perspective? Because obviously we talked about how hard it is to actually be able to clarify what you want in the beginning. We also talked about making sure they have validation from your friends and family first, and also some good product market fit. So what do you think when you're building an MVP, what are the main challenges that you see every day from some of your clients?
Scope creep, big ideas, big dreams that
process,
aren't matched by the budget.
Yes.
Flippant non-technical people. Non-technical people.
Scope.
Like, I don't know, let's build here's one. Like, let's build a crypto brokerage. Right. I want to do a demo next week. Is that okay? Yeah. I mean, how many times has some non-technical person kind of said that to a very small team?
I feel there's a story there. I want to find out more about that story.
Well, yeah, I've said that loads. I'm a non-technical person here. Why not? I want it yesterday.
Well, I think it's definitely. I was going to say, I mean, definitely. If you're not technical, it's very hard to appreciate technical challenge. I mean, you look at AI, right? Okay, the buzzword of the moment. I mean, but you look how hard real AI is. I mean, like sort of, if you're really at that low level of trying to build out kind of AI models, not just trying to build something on top of ChatGPT or something, but I mean, it's so damn hardcore. Like, I don't know.
I'm Keenan, go ahead. But I have some examples. Seems like I'm the guy with examples. But go ahead, and then I will bring a couple of examples.
Everybody wants to hear your examples now. Go for it.
Yes. I mean, you want to build an MVP. One example is if you are a non-technical guy, something I find
Don't be sexist.
very often is that when you are a non-technical founder, usually the software firm that you choose will not communicate to you things in the right way. Maybe some teams will just don't hear your ideas because you are non-technical, and other companies maybe will not explain technical terms in the right way. I have a ton of examples, of non-technical founders about the communication or how they treat them companies. They have this great idea, they don't understand the technical challenges, but these teams don't take the time to explain the challenges or, take their hands and guide them through the journey, So, there are a lot of examples, and so if you are not a non-technical founder, be careful. Okay.
I would say if you're a non-technical founder, get on the stand-ups with your tech team every day. I think that was very helpful for me to do that with Keenan when at the crypto brokerage, to realize all the steps that go into everything, and then quiz Keenan if I didn't understand anything, or quiz the tech team on that. If you're non-technical, take the pain and go on a stand-up whenever the stand-up is. Should be daily, I guess. Well, that's what it was with us. Daily stand-up, long, obviously, because they're called stand-ups. And you get a sense of all the planning and issues that arise and what can go wrong and how the problems are solved and stuff like that. And then that's Anyway, I think that was one of my best experiences, actually.
When you're building a team, what should you look for? Like, what are the key elements when you're building a team long term?
I think one of the main keys for a long-term team, is find senior or use senior developers. You can use junior, you can use middle level developers, but your core team, when you start build your MVP, should be senior developers. That is one of the way to guarantee that you can have a long-term team and you have a good foundations in your MVP. Also, people who are committed with your project. If they don't on a daily basis, if they are slow on your request, if they share their time with other projects, that is going to be a big problem for you. You should get people who are involved. It's better to have a smaller team, but fully committed with the build of your product than a large team, who is not committed to your product. And also the team should have the right skill sets. That is really important. If your product needs a good UX UI interface or should be visually appealing, get a good UX designer, and that guy should be part of your team. If your platform is it requires strong backend skills, get a good backend developer who are fully committed. It's not a currency that you can exchange. You should find very good, just a few people that will be involved in your project.
I think also that to add though, I think you got to say what kind of business is it? As in, like, is it a startup, or is it say an existing business with and the difference I'm going for is like what are you trying to achieve really? Like, do you want someone? Is this like a guaranteed year-long, forever kind of gig where you're offering stability to a developer and maybe an existing product, or you try to get something off the ground? And so I kind of take, most of, certainly my world anyway, it's startups. It's like if that business is there in a year's time, everyone's going to be happy, right? So I think two things. One, generalist is good. Like it's the smaller you are, the harder it is to afford truly specialist resources. So it's okay to be to get generalist, and generalist just means you can get somebody to do the back end and the front end, and you don't need and as long as they can deploy somewhere, sometimes you just need to get it out. That's the only thing. So being generalist is fine. Yeah, that's it really.
I think you've both nailed it.
You forget the piece.
No, I've nailed it
Second
from the
one,
perspective
you forget
of-
the piece.
I think you've both nailed it from the perspective of what you need in a team, which involves software development. Of course, all businesses now are basically software businesses. Pretty much whatever you're doing, you need some software. If from the less technical view here, I'd say the bare minimum in a startup team is you need a salesman and someone who can get things done.
Person.
Which equates to, communication and the generalist that Keenan was just talking about, I think. Basically, you need, because those skills are not all, you can't, to find that in one person is very rare. Someone who can sell and get stuff done. They're two very different skill sets, two very different personalities. So at the very minimum, I think you need, in the smallest startup teams, that's what you need. And the salesman has already sold the dream to the generalist, and they're both in it together to fight the good fight.
There is some quote by someone famous who said, if you can code or if you can build and you can sell, the future is yours.
It's
quite hard. It is hard to do both.
You find any difference between, obviously you live in different countries, you operate in different markets. Do you find any key differences between all these markets that you can just tell, in the UK people do business this way, in France it's the other way, in Uruguay it's a completely different way? And if so, which differences are there?
Yes.
We don't really operate in our markets, do we? I mean,
yeah.
Potentially, yes. But, interesting, nevertheless. What I'm trying to find out is, because everyone in the UK, a lot of startups say, it'll be easier just to build something for the US market and operate there because they have, deeper pockets. Investors have deeper pockets, or it's a bigger market, and all the companies you deal with. Do you find that they operate in a different way based on where they're based, or actually they should all be the same way regardless of where they're based?
I think maybe UK-based companies or startups are more carefully how to spend their budget. Maybe in US, if they have the budget, they just spend it, more quickly. And sometimes that could be a problem for US startups, Usually they try to start with bigger teams. They start to burn the budget quicker. In UK, I think that don't happen, Startups are more carefully, on how to spend their money and the kind of team they want to build, But at the end, in US, UK, they want to the same, to build a great product. And in Uruguay is totally different. For example, in South America, there are no development firms working for startups. Usually the startups are built by their own founders, They don't hire other companies to build these startups, They might hire a developer, for example, but it's different in that sense, In South America, basically, you build your own startup. Okay.
You're saying something?
Well, I think that seems very reflective of the VC environment in all those countries, right? It's much easier, apparently, to raise money in the US. So money flows more, people spend it more, they are more aggressive in the US. In the UK, we have less developed VC ecosystem than the Americas, but still probably the best one in Europe, as far as I'm aware, the biggest one in Europe. But it's still not as dynamic as the US one, and so it's more risk averse, and therefore budget spend and the attitude to budgets in startups is perhaps a little more conservative, and sometimes you need to be aggressive. But I can't speak for South America, sadly, but yeah, that would the character of money.
Before we were talking about Web3, and I know you guys are building something very cool on Web3. Can you tell us more about how exactly does it work? Can a company that wants to build something on Web3 approach you and ask for some software development there? How does that work?
For sure,
Talk to
they
me.
can reach us, and I'm sure we have a great expertise on anything on Web3. I'm sure Keenan will tell us about the lead protocol and all these cool technologies.
Alpha capture. Go on.
Alpha capture.
So
there are projects we can name yet. Remember that, Rufus.
Yeah.
And Keenan, sorry.
So I love Web3. I'm the hole in the rabbit hole. I think Web3 is I'm excited about Web3 in a way that I'm not excited about Web2 development. Like Web2 development's been the same for 10, 15 years. Like it gets pretty vanilla. But Web3 is as exciting as it was in sort of like 2000 through sort of .com boom, like doing genuinely exciting things that are genuinely changing how things are done in the world. So I think Web3 is amazing. And I mean, I've been in Web3 for 2 years, and that's, so it's still quite, I'm still a bit green, but it is a different way of working. I think the difference is like in Web2 and even the stuff that we've talked about, like the rapid iteration of stuff. I think that's much, much harder in Web3. Once you've got smart contracts, it's so much harder it's a much slower development. And I think it's harder to develop. It's slower to develop. You've got to get it right or closer to right first time round. And the risks associated with money and smart contracts are quite substantial. So I think but I think Web3 is intellectually challenging. Like, because you have to genuinely do things really in a really different way. And that's the real challenge.
As a side note, I think on Web3 and in IA, you should be really careful, because there are a lot of experts in the field, but when you scratch the surface, you find out they are not experts on any of the technologies, They might talk about smart contract, protocols so far, but again, it's like any buzzword,
Is there anything like, would you advise people to build, because there's a lot of buzz around AI, a lot of buzz obviously around Web3 as well. Would you advise people to build something on for these things, for AI or for Web3 and build them based on these technologies? Or quite on the contrary, just...
Honestly, why would you build anything else? Like why would you, if you're going to start a business now, why would you start building something that's already old? I mean, it has to be.
Killian IA, right? I mean,
you see some people. Yeah, you see some people pop up with. I've seen a few on the investing side of things, which we're involved with, and you think just look at the moment you've put your head into AI or into Web3, and you have a certain way of doing things, and see what's possible, and then you look back at Web2 and you're like, it looks archaic. Honestly, why would anyone want to invest into a Web2 business now? Like why would you want to build? Why would you want to dedicate the next 5-10 years of your life trying to build a Web2 business? I mean, why? It's just not technically interesting. It's not where the world's going. It's not where people want to invest in. It's not the future of tech. It's not the way to disrupt things. So honestly, you shouldn't do anything else other than AI and Web3.
But there's still some businesses that could use Web2 for multiple
like
things,
what?
right? I don't know, food delivery service or something like that.
Yes. I think what happens is that you can use Web2, Web3, any technology, but the niche start to get smaller and smaller. The niches you can tackle are getting smaller each time, For example, in the past, you can have your delivery food app and, you can make it great. And now you should think on a delivery food app using drones, You should tackle every time smaller or think more in depth of what you are going to offer in your startup, It's like getting harder to get good ideas, I think.
No way.
No,
It's the opposite. There are
Okay,
more
easier.
ideas.
Okay.
What's that? There's another famous quote. I don't know who said it. It was the guy in the late 1800s who said he should close the government patent office in the US or something because all the good ideas had been had. I mean, what a load of nonsense. AI and Web3 provide more opportunity for new ideas and new ways of doing things more than ever before, more than faster to market than ever before.
But
Take it back,
you should
Esteban.
be.
Take it back.
No. I mean, I got your point, but each time you should be more innovative. You know, you should bring more innovation, and before you bring innovation, you should understand what is innovation. That is another problem with many founders. They don't understand what is innovation.
What I
Sorry,
liked
Ruf,
about what you
go
said,
ahead.
what I liked about what you said was that you need to focus the niche a bit more nowadays. So you have to be a bit more specialized. So yeah, the example of a food delivery app now being drones, and then then someone needing to make specific software for drones that manages deliveries and that kind of stuff. You need your startups probably need to be more niche and more focused nowadays, given the proliferation of AI and Web3. I think that's a very valid point. And I wonder how much Web3 reduces or makes the investment side of it harder, because Web3 is more about protocols empowering individuals rather than empowering specific businesses or sectors.
That's called
Is that, or is
disruption.
that too broad? Is that too broad a generalization?
I
Probably
get
is
the point
too-
you're making,
Yeah.
but that but this is a good thing, because now
It is a
you
good
say,
thing.
okay,
but
Web3 it is about communities, and particularly kind of token-based rewards looks to reward the community, like sort of built around those protocols. But it also therefore disrupts all the traditional businesses that we know and may
beautiful.
not love. It is. There you go. More innovation, more ideas than have ever existed. We can disrupt the entire system now. This is why it's exciting.
And it's never
More
actually been
even
more
rewards.
important. It's never been more important
Exactly.
because we run the risk as a society of being dominated by Google, Amazon, Facebook, OpenAI, Microsoft, right? And the more they get ahead in AI, the more they're going to steal the future on everything. Right, they'll own businesses that create nuclear fission at some point, or solve cancer, or whatever, because they've got this first mover advantage into large language models and stuff, and that means they control everything. So Web3 has never been more important about empowering startups and the individual, and you tie in crypto with that to make sure that it's authentic. Because the dark side of all that is you get,
I don't think it's just first mover either. I mean, you look at, LLM specific maybe, and if you kind of dumb it down, the amount of compute that you have for these models improves the model. Therefore, sort of the biggest companies who have access to the greatest compute have the greatest models.
Yeah.
And so how do you compete against that? Like, you end up, and you look at what's driving the markets at the moment, like obviously Nvidia, but Microsoft is also at 52-week record highs.
Yeah.
Right? It's all the big ones.
Yeah.
So the Google, Microsoft, we all know that. But how do you then take on these big companies that they just get bigger and bigger and own more and more, and the reward is shared with only a relatively small number of people.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting bit about Web3. Whereas you could, rather than rewarding only shareholders, you could reward all the users of, say, an AI model, for example.
Do you think that crypto is still a scary word for some people, for some investors? Or quite on the contrary, it's actually being seen as something that they can see it straight away as it's functional and there's money to be had and they can see the return straight away?
We found, we have been raising for a protocol, and we definitely find that there is a line, sort of Web 2 and Web 3. Like, if you have to convince somebody about Web 3, or you have to, in any idea, explain the value of a token, like just general terms, like crypto, token, Web3. If you're having to convince anybody at all about any aspect of just generally why it's a good thing, then it just ain't going to happen. So people have to buy into it by themselves and all their experience. So I mean, we wouldn't ever, I think, anymore pitch to a non-Web3 investor, for example. It's just not worth it. But all investors should come over. I mean, it is genuinely exciting. They've got to make that jump into Web3, at least understand it. I mean, it's going to be a big part of the world.
Yeah, they'll have to, or they'll die, basically. Yeah, in the long run.
Yeah, completely.
It's all going.
It's a bit like what happened in It's the same thing that happened with the .com bubble, isn't it? There was a big explosion. Then we had some companies that just went bust, and then after a while, it was like, okay, what are we doing now? And then they had Web 2 show up, and then, this is what we're doing. Okay, let's build here. Actually, makes a lot more sense this way than what we had before. Yeah. So it's just the way of things progressing, I guess.
Yeah,
exciting times ahead.
Right. So I think what does change is that you get two waves. You get the skeuomorphic wave. So, and we see this in Web3 as well, where you have you basically have a business that's really a Web2 business, but you change it by 10%, and suddenly it's a Web3 business. It's like you just kind of add a twist to it. But then at some point, you end up with a genuinely like a native Web3 solution. And there are lots of examples coming, but the difference between a skeuomorphic Web2 business and a native Web3 business is quite substantial. So that wave you're talking about, like the .com, sort of, you almost got rid of all the old stuff, and then all these genuinely new, truly internet native businesses really took hold, and then that's the driver for the next wave of adoption. But you've got to lose the old stuff.
I guess everyone's excited about the future, I'm imagining.
Except for Esteban, who's run out of ideas.
No, I have a lot of ideas. Yes, it's very exciting. The new vaccines with RNA, all that stuff. Even in biology, in medical healthcare. I mean, how all the domains are crossing over. How this large language model could be used in the medical or biological sides. I think all of us, I'm sure, we think on the next few years we will see great breakthroughs, on every aspect of our life. I mean, when you see now drones delivering packages, I see that in South America, in Uruguay. You see now on the private neighborhoods, you see drones delivering all the packages, and
that is very cool.
Yes, it's crazy and very and it's going very quickly,
I have a very technical question, which is I use ChatGPT every day, which is awesome for me for a lot of stuff I do. And I also know that, and I've tried a couple of times, it's very easy to get ChatGPT to write code. I'm not saying it's good code, but it is code. Now, from a software development point of view, is that something that you feel, people in software development should feel threatened by? Or on the other hand, you actually embrace the fact that you can actually get a lot of work done much, much quicker, and you can build a lot quicker?
Embrace it.
I think, yes. I mean, if you are like us, an innovative development firm, you will embrace it, If you are a more classical development firm, that could be a problem for you, But, I mean, in our case, you should embrace it, It's great. You can have more of your mental energy focused on build what is innovative and not worry about how to code the small stuff, So I think it's great.
Simple economics, right? You pay a developer $5,000-$10,000 a month, right? And you pay what? I remember now, $30 for Copilot,
right?
Yes.
I mean, it needs to help you once a month. Like if we had a developer start recently on a project, and he didn't have Copilot, he wasn't using Copilot. Like it becomes ridiculous. Like you have to use it, like because it can improve your output by, even if you say 10%, right? Suddenly, $30 versus $1,000 kind of output. Like I think it's essential. Like it should be demanded by essentially the employer. You must use it.
We have done a small test in our team. We try to find out how much faster you are using Copilot, and I think we find out your development speed goes by 20 or 25% faster. Something like that. I mean,
wow,
it's massive.
Yes,
that's a big jump.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the work you done in the past with one developer, maybe you can do it now with a part-time developer. Basically.
Here's a little tip for you, Ricardo.
I know it's the same thing.
I just switched from ChatGPT to Venice.ai, which uses all the big models, and the servers are decentralized and can never be shut down, and it doesn't track your data. And it's $50 for Pro for a year.
A year?
A year.
Okay, that's very good.
Yeah, and it's set up by a guy who developed the Ordinals protocol on Bitcoin. So he's a real sort of believer in self-sovereignty and kind of anti-big government and censorship. Because every time you're using ChatGPT 4, you're enabling a beast that no one's sure can ever be controlled, and it's controlled by those big companies. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm very pleased with Venice.ai currently.
You are close.
You're on the way.
You are on the right track, man.
Yeah, but we work in tech, right? We see it happen. So I mean, I think when you're close when you're too close to the stove, you get burnt.
Yeah, but they do get a lot of information from us, and it does get a bit scary because even medical questions that some people ask to ChatGPT, and then that can actually be used to create multiple models about yourself and your personality and how you think, how you're going to act. Mm-hmm. And then in the future, we don't know how impactful that's going to be in your day-to-day life. Someone can say this person, because they once had, I don't know, a problem with their left foot, they might be more prone to do something crazy. And you're like, how? Because the computer said so, right? It gets a bit crazy when you start thinking about that. So
isn't that good?
We have your records of 10 years ago on ChatGPT, That is the reason why they know that. So,
isn't this a good thing?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a good thing. I've asked a lot of really bizarre questions to ChatGPT. The latest one being, right, or please add more to the song from Billy Idol, Start the Fire from the 80s. I don't know if you guys know that song. He kind of goes about all the major historical events in the U.S. And I said, just continue doing it from the 1980s onwards. And he did a very good job, to be honest. So I don't want to be accused of copywriting or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, data is a good thing, good or bad, as long as the person analyzing the data can work out the difference. But also, who custodies that data is extremely important, because data in the wrong hands is lethal. I guess we'd all prefer whatever data we had to be owned by Microsoft, the Chinese Communist Party, probably, but I don't think there's much in that, given that we don't live in China. But it's I've heard some frightening tales of lives being ruined by data being misappropriated and attributed to the wrong people, and careers ruined for that, and because someone made a mistake about. A human made a mistake attributing data on a database to one person when it should have been somewhere else. So it's a risk that we all run by trusting the wrong people.
Speaking of trusting not the wrong people, but the right people, if people want to reach out to your team in Odev.tech, how can they do so?
They can get on our website, Odev.tech. They can reach us. They can reach me, Keenan, or Rufus. I'm sure in the podcast website you have the contacts of us, or drop us an email to Esteban Odev.tech or Rufus Odev.tech. They can reach us anytime, and we will help them on anything they might need.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed that conversation.
Thanks for your time, Ricardo. Great chat. Bye, guys.
This podcast is sponsored by OpenExperts.com. Open Experts is a place to go if you're looking to talk with top experts from around the world. That is open-experts.com. This podcast is also sponsored by startupnetworks.co.uk. Startup Networks, it's an online forum where you can find all the resources you need to run your startup, from grants to investors to tips and tricks on how to be successful in your startup. This podcast is also sponsored by Odev.tech. Odev.tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech.